Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today I'm going to be joined once again by Bubblebox and SilverRaptor. If you'd like to check out Bubblebox's channel, there will be a link in the description below. Also, if you'd like to see more videos like this, then please also make sure you check out the playlist that will be linked below. In this one, we're going to be having a look at the US Marine deck, and we are also going to be covering the naval section in this video, so that will be helpful for some of you guys who have been asking for us to look a little bit into the naval side of things. But we're going to start off with SilverRaptor talking us through his logistics vehicles.
First thing when I was making this deck, I was thinking trying to get as many things amphibious as possible, because it's a marine deck. You probably want to cross rivers, do the unexpected thing, and actually do the marine part of the marine deck. So my CV, I got the LAV C2 for my because 50 kilometers per hour, marine, armored, pretty good. I also got a second CV as well. I got some TACOMs and twin Hueys. In case I manage to win the sea route, I can bring this in quickly and land and try to capture the sector and open up a line from behind.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. That's it, is it?
For my CVs, yes. For supply, I got the CH-53 huge supply helicopter. Well, this thing is pretty much loaded with all sorts of supply. And then for ground supply, I was actually very disappointed. I had to go with the M35 cargoes, and I was disappointed that the U.S. doesn't have any amphibious supply ground vehicles, and that was just disappointing for me.
Cool.
But I just had to grab the cargoes just to fill that up. So that's my logistics.
Okay, Vulcan, what do you reckon?
Mine's exactly the same. Every single card, and I'll tell you why the cargoes are important is because they allow you to create like a sort of what's it called? Like where you have your troops before you move them on. Like what's that called?
Forward staging point?
Yeah, like a staging point. That's the one. Yeah, you can create like a staging point. Especially some of the support units, they run out of fuel pretty quickly. So having these cheap sort of cargo units in order to just refuel your stuff before you send it over water is actually something that I've found very, very helpful. Going back to the CVs though, yeah, I really like the Twin Huey. It's really fast and it's not super fast, but you know, it's faster than the LAV C2 getting across a river in order to countercap a sector which you're actually attacking over water, and people often don't expect it. So yeah, anyway, mine's pretty much exactly the same. So
okay, well, I've got a sort of slightly different tack. I've only got two of my two cards. I've got the LAV C2s, and for pretty much the same reason, it's amphibious, blah blah blah, and it's like a marine deck. So I have amphibious units. But what this can do, it can capture a water sector undetected. So whereas you might want to put a ship there, ships are massive and spotted. But if you put an LAV C2 next to one of the islands, for example, on the big 10v10 map, then these things sometimes cannot be spotted. And if you've got some anti-air units on the island as well, it can't be bombed either.
Yeah. So
that's quite a useful thing to have as well. Catch a sector with this instead of with a ship. And I've got some CH-53s for resupply. I've got no fob. I'm going to be using LCUs. I've got a marine deck after all, and I haven't got any trucks, despite what you say. I haven't brought any trucks in with this deck. That's all I've got.
All right.
So, infantry, Vulcan.
Okay. I really, really like the infantry in the US Marine deck. I'm going to start by saying I've got 2 cards of US Marine 90s and the LVTP 7A1s. Easily my favorite amphibious unit in the entire game. That grenade launcher is just absolutely awesome. Actually, thinking about it, I have 3 cards of US Marine 90s and LVTPs. The 7A1s with the grenade launchers, they are all elite as well. So literally 27 US Marines at elite with these LVTPs. It's just amazing. Grenade launch is just such good fire support. And most of the time when you're attacking with Marine units across rivers or across big masses of water, you often go into forests and so on the other side, and this combination is just perfect for that. So I really, really like them.
Yep, and shock trained, 15-man squad, so good survivability.
Exactly, yeah, just such strong infantry.
Yeah.
Then moving on, I've got small squads in the LVTP 7s because I've already used up all my 7A1s. The small squad, great squad, 70% accurate, small missile with the 21 AP power, but also the 2 HE power, which makes them good against infantry as well. The combination of the LTP with the smalls, again, is just brilliant. I love the synergy that comes with a lot of the US Marine deck. And in this case, that's another example of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then to further expand my ground infantry, I've got light riflemen in twin Hueys. Some of my infantry I'm going to be bringing in twin Hueys, the other one being a Stinger C squad. But first of all, yeah, the light riflemen 90s, they have the longer range Dragon missile, 1925 meter HGM, really good at picking off light vehicles like stray AA vehicles and APCs and stuff that can get really annoying. Light riflemen, I just think, are there to pick off those units and just be an annoyance. They also come as a 10-man squad with a M240 machine gun as well. So just really good infantry squad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Good support. Also, the twin Huey does come with the minigun. Again, even more fire support, which is just brilliant.
Sure.
People underestimate that minigun.
Indeed, you can shoot down other helicopters with it, and you can destroy, even ground like vehicles with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got the Ladsinger C squads as well. I think these are almost a necessity because the AA, or at least infrared AA, is a bit lacking. So you need to have some man-pad squads to support your ground units, especially in a amphibious maneuver. And although these are going to be coming in helicopters, these will be your troops that will set up a sort of breach, and hold the AA sort of space until you can get some serious AA units over there, because most of them will be left behind according to the speed of the LVTPs and obviously airplanes or the helicopters in this case.
Sure. Cool.
Finally, I have a unit of Delta Force, and these are coming in the V150s. I didn't want to bring them in the expensive helicopters because the Frog's kind of, I don't know, it's got a minigun, but I just don't really enjoy using it. It has a dodgy time landing all the time, which is really annoying. I don't know.
It is big, whereas the twin Huey's small.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a bug in the game that it actually takes a pretty long time to land. So anyway, I brought them in the V150. It's a really, really fast APC and is pretty quick over water as well. So that will help them support the Marines on the push.
Excellent. Silver.
Okay. When I did this deck, originally when I had a U.S. Marine deck way back a lot earlier in Wargame before several patches, I had regular U.S. Marines over the U.S. Marine 90s. And back then was because the U.S. Marine 90s and the regular U.S. Marines cost the same, but you get less of the U.S. Marine 90s, and the only difference is that their laws were about 10% more accurate than the regular Marines. So I got Marines for more availability. But after the change, as you can see, the U.S. Marine 90s are 5 points more expensive. They've got a better light machine gun, more rounds per minute, and a lot better anti-tank weapon. So that I swapped that out with the LVT U.S. Marine 90s with the LVTP 7A1s as well.
Yeah.
I got them as veterans though, because U.S. Marines just don't want to die when fighting. They just hang on against all odds, I've seen.
Okay, cool. What else?
I also got 2 small squads in LVTP 7s, same as Vulcan because I didn't have any 7A1s. And I got these at Elite so that they can, be more devastating with the small rockets. And yes, indeed, the smalls and the U.S. Marines are just so good together. Just be able to, they're basically very hard pressed to push out of an area. And then, of course, I got 2 stacks of Ladstinger C's with twin Hueys. Like Vulcan said, in terms of infantry, AA is a little hard to come by, but so bringing these in would help out. They're also good for if I decide to do a landing push to be able to keep helicopters away, because helicopters seem to be an enemy's first response if they're being flanked, usually.
Sure. Okay. Is that it? No Delta Force?
That's no Delta Force for me, because I mean,
okay.
Comparing Delta Force to Marines, Delta Force seems to be better in building slightly due to their regular machine gun, but Marines have more man per squad, so it's kind of toss up between the two.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I've got, of course, everyone's got the US Marines. I've got the US Marines, 2 sets in LVDP 7A1s, of course. I've got 1 set in Progs, the big chunky things that never land. And I've got a couple of sets, 2 sets of Lad Stinger Cs, both in Twin Hueys. And I have got 2 sets of Delta Force, 1 set in the V150s, the same as Vulcan, and also 1 set in the CH-46 Progs that never land, just for a bit of flexibility. I guess they'll land eventually. I like the Delta Force as well because you can put them through forests and stuff. They move really quickly. That's the only advantage really over the Marines, is they move a lot faster over ground. The Marines
only 5 kilometers faster.
Yeah, it makes a difference. You put it on a map and move them together. It does make quite a bit of a difference. Also, it means they can get away from stuff, and if they're engaged with another infantry squad like Spetsnaz or something, they can actually stand a chance of getting away from them before they get decimated by the napalm. But yeah, so that is my infantry. So let's move on then to the support, Silver.
First thing for support, I just grabbed 2 of the M48A3 Chaparrals because, I mean, these things are the only Chaparrals that you can get in the Marine deck due to the fact that they're the only ones amphibious, but because they've got basically the longest infrared anti-helicopter range in the game with 3,325 range against helicopters.
Yeah, they are very, very good. You've got to have these, I reckon, in your deck. What else?
And then I also got some Hawk Pips because, I mean, these things are very long range against airplanes, but also very long range against helicopters as well. So very, very good AA potential with the U.S. Marine deck. And for further, going on to the artillery section, I actually got some M109A2s for a bit of artillery support. Pretty long range, okay dispersion for 80 points, so I went ahead and got those. And then I've got some LAVMs or lav mortars because they're amphibious. You're able to smoke an area, smoke a landing zone to get troops to land and help support your troops better, I guess. So that's my support.
Yeah, excellent. I think we're all going to have fairly similar because there's not much of a choice, to be honest. What have you got, Vulcan?
Yeah, mine's exactly the same again, except instead of having the lav mortars, I've got a card of Avengers. The Chaparrals, they are the only infrared AA you get. That's why I was stressing the importance of the Stinger Cs in this deck. Chaparrals, they're awesome. And the Avenger, the reason I've got that is just because it's quick. So it can get to where you need it. It's just a fun support unit that can kill helicopters where needed, when needed. Obviously on your side of the river, but you're going to get them there if you create some sort of beachhead. And finally, the Pip 3, that is just such an awesome AA unit, something that you can keep on your side of the push, like on your side of the sea or the river, and it will shoot down airplanes on the other side because of its long range. So it's always helpful to have.
Cool. Yeah, I've got the chaps as well, the Chaparrals, whatever you want to call them. I've got the Hawk Pip 3s as well. I've gone for the Lav M's for some more, just some support for my Marines, really, in case I need it, or for some smoke or something. And then, rather than go for the M109A2, made a bit of a controversial choice here, gone for the M109s with their massive dispersion. The reason I've got these is it's a Marine deck. I want to be playing some ships in this deck, and if the enemy brings out a big blob of ships, I want to be able to basically artillery their blob. Which is the only reason really that I brought these out, although that's a bit of a defensive way of playing. We'll have to see how it goes. These are kind of going to be a bit of a last resort if I'm overwhelmed by ships. The only thing that worries me a little bit is the range is a little bit short, so I might have to move them towards the enemy a little bit to use them.
One thing you might want to do with the M109 is just basically carpet artillery the entire area before you cross the river to make the enemy kind of spread out, disperse, try to avoid the artillery shots while your troops land. And by the time the related troops land, they're already in an ineffective location.
Yeah, well, we'll see how I'll use this. Again, if I don't want to bring them out near the beginning or anything like that, because they are really a defensive kind of thing against ship spams and stuff like that. They're not really an offensive unit as such, I don't think. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes with them.
Honestly, a point to make as well is you don't necessarily want to arty where you're going to land with a marine deck, because 9 times out of 10, all that will end up happening is you'll send your marine deck across and they'll just all get picked off as they're going across because you've already given away the fact that you're going to attack in that location.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the time you do rely a lot on stealth when it comes to a marine deck.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. Let's move on to the tanks. Vulcan, I think it is.
Yeah.
Got any?
A wonderful tank selection.
I've got a card of the M1A1 HC Abrams, mainly because it's actually a very good tank, and you can get it on the marine deck. Yeah. 65% accuracy, 60% stabilizer, which is just insane. 22 AP power and 9 rounds per minute as well. Just a really, really good tank, basically. Then I also have a card of the M60A1 errors as well, mainly because that's the best pattern tank you can get. 55% accuracy with a 16 AP power and 10 rounds per minute as well. A very effective medium tank. Might come in handy, so I have it on the deck.
Yep, not a bad, nice looking little tank. Silver.
I also got the M1 A1 HCs, and then I also got the M60 A1 eras with 2 cards at hardened, so they're more accurate and harder hitting than 22 of these things because, like you said, 55% accuracy at 10 rounds per minute. These are good at just sending across a river, and when you start crossing the river and they start firing, all these things will unload on the enemy, and you can pretty much suppress an enemy river line, I guess.
Yeah, they provide good fire support where the body of water is a lot smaller. I've also got mine as hardened.
Yep, I've got the same. One of the big tanks, the Abrams, one of the set of the air tanks on hardened, exactly the same. So let's move on to the Reconnaissance.
I'm actually surprised you didn't get the M60A1 USMC tank, Vulcan. 35 point with 9 front armor and 10 rounds per minute.
Nah. I'm not going to be spamming tanks with this deck, so it seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, let's move on to Reconnaissance.
All right. First off, I start off with the LAV-25 Scout. Pretty much, there's not very good recon, so you just kind of have to rely on the good but kind of forward front line fighting vehicles. So yeah, I got the LAV-25 Scout. They're very good infantry support, good bringing with your squad. And then of course I got the AH-1J Cobra, basically infantry killer, good optics, only recon helicopter they have. So yeah, bring those in to help spot for everything else. And then I've got Navy SEALs because, I mean, who would not have Navy SEALs when playing the Americans? They're just very good infantry killers in their own right as well. And the only basically very good optics, or one of the few very good optics the Marine deck can have. So that's why I got those.
Cool. Vulcan.
Yeah, I'm pretty much very similar. I've got the LAV 25 Scout. Great accuracy, the Bushmaster cannon, just brilliant fire support for your infantry squads and provides the optics that you need in order to spot stuff at that close range. You have the AH-1J Cobra. That's another absolutely fantastic helicopter. Even though it's only good optics, it's a helicopter, so it's up in the sky. It can see a lot more anyway, and the firepower it brings is absolutely amazing. The Navy SEALs, I've got 2 cards. One's in the Frog and the other one's in the V150s, just for a bit of versatility, really. I don't know where and when I'm going to be using these, but generally they'll support the US Marines in their pushes. The grenade launcher is just great. It's funny how they get an AKM. Apparently it's because it was their weapon of choice, because they like the reliability, but there you go. And then finally I have a M151A2 FAV. For the exceptional recon, this is something that would stay on my side of the river or the body of water in order to provide recon against flanks like helicopters and stuff like that I might need to know about. So yeah, that's my recon.
Cool, yeah. Well, before you said that last vehicle, I was going to say no one's chosen the Humvees and the Jeeps because they're pretty underwhelming, but then you chose one. So yeah. Sport my moment there. But I've gone for very similar. I've got the LAV-25 Scout. I've got 2 sets of Navy SEALs, same as Vulcan, one in V150s and one in the Progs. And I've gone for 2 sets of the AH-1J Cobras, vetted up, or hardened rather. So I've got 14 of them. It seems like quite a lot, but when you get to the helicopter tabs, there's not really a helicopter that's got rocket pods. So this can be kind of double up as a infantry killer and as a recon. And it is really good over the water for reconning the ships for your fleet and also for your aircraft and stuff as well. So I really like those Cobras.
An interesting note about the Prog that I'd like to make is that it first started off as a Navy helicopter for a while, so that's why U.S. Navy SEALs can be in them. And then after a while, they upgraded to the Chinook and decided to hand the Prog over to the Marines for the Marines to use. So just interesting fact, it's the oldest U.S. Helicopter that's been in service.
1964 in the game. 1964. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's move on to vehicles then.
Okay. I've got the V150 90mm. I took this one mainly because I think it's better against infantry, than the 75 or 76mm. Now, a lot of people get confused between why you would take the V150 76mm instead of a V150 90mm, and 90mm is much better against infantry, but also has that slight capability against enemy APCs and light vehicles, whereas the 76mm has that little buff to the AP power and also the range that makes it much better at like engaging sort of lighter to medium sort of stuff. So yeah, I've got the 90mm in this case. I think it's much more important that you have the capability to support your infantry against other infantry in order to create those beachheads. Then moving on, I've got the LAV-AT. It's kind of cool because when you've got it in the water, it's just like this little thing poking out of the water that's firing like the ATGMs at whatever's facing you on the other side, and generally out of range because of the 2,625 meter range. So it's always nice to have an ATGM vehicle there that you can use on the water, and that's why I have it. And that's all my vehicles.
Cool. Silver.
For vehicles, I actually went all out with the vehicle map, kind of because I was trying to figure out where to put my points. One thing funny about the V150s, the 2 different guns, is that the less accurate, longer range one has a shorter muzzle than the 90mm, which is less range, and I just find that kind of funny because usually you have a longer barrel to go longer. So, just interesting thing. All right, now on to my actual vehicles. Sorry about that. First, I got this because I've seen this in Vietnam clips fighting. I've got the Ontos. And
I knew you'd get those.
Yeah, the reason why I got the Ontos, I've seen them in Vietnam clips where, the Marines were bringing them forward. It's kind of a funny-looking vehicle, 6 recoilless rifles, 13 rounds per minute, and I've actually seen these just fire just boom, 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 boom. Just they're able to put out so much fire. Good for supporting on the other side of the village, so that's my replacement for your V150. I also got 2 cards of LAV-25s so that they could go across the river as well. These are just very good. They've kind of been invented for the Marines, so I just thought put them all in the Marine deck and continue on. Yeah. I also got some Zippos because napalm is always good in situations where you're trying to block out an enemy movement with control of enemy movement while you're moving across. And then also, yeah, I also got the LAV ATs. Like Vulcan said, they just stick out of the water and they shoot at tanks, or they can even shoot at ships if a ship comes close enough. So
Cool. Yeah, I've got a very easy one to go through. I've got LAV AT anti-tanks weapon, 2 sets, both at hardened, and I got 2 sets of LAV 25s, both at hardened as well. So I've got quite a lot of units, but only 2 different types of units.
Yeah. The only thing I'd be worried about with your choices, Silver, is that the Ontos, like it's really slow off road, which is just horrible. I love the unit. I really love the unit because the 13 rounds per minute is kind of a bit misleading, because what this vehicle does is it acts like an autocannon. It fires 6 rounds and then it reloads, and then it fires 6 rounds again. So that, just a note for people. That 13 rounds per minute is very misleading. But in general, I really built my deck around the fact that I'm going to be moving over big bodies of water. And if, for example, I took the Zippo and Ontos, I don't think that would fit into the marine sort of way that my deck's going. But yeah, yours definitely makes your deck more versatile, which is what I kind of like, I guess.
One thing, the reason why I got the Ontos for the Zippo, even though they're not amphibious, is that these are kind of also not only to help push across the river, but one thing I've kind of noticed is people expect marine decks in game, especially when you're playing with randoms, to hold bridges as well. So the Zippo and the Ontos are able to just choke point, hold and control an area of a crossing across a bridge while you do a crossing across the river, and so I just got these for a little bit extra controlling enemy movements.
Yeah, they're good choices, but like if you're making a more versatile deck.
Yep, we'll see what it's like, what happens in game. Right,
Yep.
Silver, you can carry on then, I think, isn't it, with the helicopters?
I got 2 stacks of the Super Cobras because, I mean, why would you not?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
the
exactly
long
the same.
infrared, long toes. I think we talked all about this in previous, so I won't talk too much about it. But another thing I also got was actually a stack of Seahawks, and the reason why is that normally they have the Hellfire missiles, and normally you get the Hellfire with the Apaches, but you can't in this case. But also is because even though there's the Hellfire missiles have a longer range than the toes, and you definitely don't want to send the Super Cobras to try to take out a tank across the enemy line, because some of the AA can shoot them down, whereas the Hellfire missile gives you a little more extra meters to kind of try to do that safely of picking off tanks or something. So yeah, that's why I got the Seahawks.
Cool.
Yeah, mine's exactly the same. Super Cobras and a Seahawk stack. The Seahawks are necessary because, like you say, you don't want to necessarily use your Super Cobras to take out ground units that often. You want to kind of keep them safe because they're incredibly expensive for what you have them for. And you only get 2 infrared missiles. They're incredibly brittle aircraft. You're gonna get them shot down a lot if you're not too careful with them. So the Seahawk can kind of be a bit more aggressive with it. It's cheaper, and you can use it to take out those pesky tanks that can be very annoying against marine decks.
Yep, I've got 2 sets of Super Cobras. Enough said about them. They're just fantastic against aircraft, and the reason I like them in marine decks is you can hover them around and about your ships, and they have a very good chance of taking out anti-ship warfare planes that come and attack your ships, and they're not too vulnerable in that position.
You know, Bubble, before you said that, I had actually never considered that.
They're really good for that. 3,100 meter range. The ASW planes will normally get their rockets off, but then they'll be shot down by Super Cobras once they just follow up a little bit. And
you mean 3,850?
Oh, sorry, yeah. And the ships will protect your Super Cobras against anti-air choppers and anti-air and sort of planes and stuff as well. So I like to
very synergistic, yeah.
I like to use them for that. And also, I have got 2 sets of Seahawks for exactly the same reason as Vulcan, really. You don't want to be using your Super Cobras to attack land units. And also, these Seahawks can outrange some of the riverboats that the Super Cobras have to get too close to, especially if the boats are moving towards them. So they can snipe some of those riverboats as well, the Seahawks, and they fire I don't know what it says. It's just got a 1 second reload time, but they fire really fast as well. I mean, they get the 4 missiles off in no time. And I've actually got mine hardened. I've got 2 stacks, both hardened, so they'll just they won't miss, hopefully. So I really like them, even though they are expensive. 80 points for just 3. Well, what do I get? Like just 4 missiles for 80 points, but
Yeah.
Yep. So that's all my choppers. So we'll move on to the aircraft. Vulcan, I think you're going to head off for the aircraft.
Okay, so to begin with, I've got the A6A Intruders. These come with 12 227 kilogram bombs for only 75 points. I don't know why it has an accuracy. It's kind of weird, but not really that important for bombs.
The accuracy is that wherever you click to drop, it's about a 40% chance that will land where you click. Otherwise, it's kind of like a bit of a dispersion around that area.
Well, I'd rather have a bigger dispersion. So yeah.
Yeah, well, when you got 12 bombs on, it doesn't particularly matter. You're just going to be
Especially
carpeting.
smaller bombs.
Yeah, and they're 10 HE power bombs, so they're pretty effective. And it's got 20% ECM as well, which is kind of nice. They're a bit slow. They kind of spend quite a lot of time over target, really, which can lead to them being shot down. But for only 75 points, I think it's worth the risk in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Then I've got the EA6B Prowlers, and this is for seed, obviously. 60% accurate seed missiles with 4,900 meter range. They're very effective, and the aircraft does have 50% ECM itself, which is a lot. So you get 2 of them, and they are helpful. And they look really cool if you bring them out with the Intruders, because they're both the same sort of model of plane.
Right.
So you bring out like an Intruder swarm with like a couple of Prowlers, and they'll shoot up the radar AA while your bombers go in and absolutely wipe everything out, and it's glorious.
Oh yeah, they are exactly the same model. Look at that.
Then moving on, I've got the Phantom 2. Really, really good napalm aircraft. You get 8 napalm bombs. Unfortunately, no HE power on the bombs, but does leave a very nice spread of napalm in a nice line. You can use them to napalm an entire road, or you can, make them so that they come across an entire line of infantry, and it just looks wonderful.
Or napalm the spawn point of the enemy.
Yeah, just flood napalm into a spawn point. Yeah, that works. But yeah, the 30% ECM and 900 kilometers per hour speed isn't bad either.
Yeah, these are really nice. I always have these in my US decks, even though the bombs look like they're dragging on the floor and it's got flat tires, but it is a really nice aircraft. Yeah.
Might want to fix it up before takeoff.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on again. I've got the FA-18 C Hornet. This is my main air-to-ground aircraft to take out tanks. It's got 30 AP power on those Maverick missiles. 50% accuracy kind of sucks, but there's 4 of them, and often this can kill a target in one pass, so that's good. It does kind of dive directly into the tank almost, because it does fire all 4 missiles before having to go around in a circle, which does leave it kind of vulnerable to AA. Yeah, but in the case that I would actually use these, I would probably make sure that they weren't going to get shot down beforehand. They do have 40% ECM to help them out, and they do go 1,000 kilometers per hour as well, so they do get out very, very quickly afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
And then finally, for my planes, I have the AV-8A Harrier, and I picked this Harrier because it has 500 kilogram bombs, which are 15 HE power, and they only cost 60 points, these things, and they come armed with a twin Aiden 30, which is actually an incredibly underrated cannon. This thing can tear aircraft to pieces and also do serious damage to helicopters in one pass. And also the infrared missile, great again, accompanying an attack on helicopters, and also for engaging aircraft cheaply. 60 points, doesn't have any ACM unfortunately, but yeah, the bombs very, very effective for the price.
Yep.
And that's
60 points. Yeah.
And that's
cool.
all my aircraft.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go next on the aircraft, I think. So I have got very similar. I got the Phantom 2s, of course. That's one of the first aircraft I got. I just really like them. They're the only really good source of napalm in the USA deck. So I've got the Phantom 2s. I also got the FA-18 C Hornets for my main kind of anti-tank plane to support. I probably won't be using many anti-tank weapons in a seaborne deck or a marine deck, but it's good for helping out my fellow players if need be. Got the Prowlers, good, yep, seed, but good against single. If you get a single ship floating around somewhere and you've got your couple of seed in your deck already out and paid for them, so just use them against ships as well, as long as you don't, not the big ships with the really long range, but like the smaller ships with the slightly less range on their anti-air. These things will take them out as well. Now I got the Phantom 2s. Now I know these aren't that good, the F4J Phantom 2 anti-air, but I had to get anti-air because I'm going to be bringing ships out and they're going to get attacked by anti-ship warfare planes. So I've bought myself a bunch of these F4J Phantom 2s, and I do have something to supplement these later on as well, as you'll see. But I got 3 of them. If you will have to bring at least 2, probably 3 in at a time, because the accuracy is terrible at 35%, but they have got a 6,300 meter range. So if you bring 3 of them in and they can all get their missiles off, they will shoot something down before they die. Apart from that, I've got the AV-8A Harriers. I'm not a big fan of Harriers in this game, mainly because they just seem to get shot down a lot, really, because of the lack of ECM in most of the Harriers. But these are, like you say, have got the really massive HE power on their main payload. 15 is brilliant, like you just say, but you've got to make sure there's no anti-air or man-pads and stuff around, because this thing will just get shot down. And the AIM-9J is effective. And the reason it's effective is because this thing has got a really tight turn radius. And if you get in close with even big planes, like, you know, like some of the big sort of MiGs, like it can outturn them and get its missiles off on them quicker than they can turn and get their missiles off on it. But of course, it does have to get that close before it can use them. I've got some of the intruders as well. I'm not over keen on these, again, mainly because they just seem to get shot down a lot when I use them. But again, I'll bring these in maybe end game to try to get the last regions or something like that. And I've also got the AV-8C Harrier as well, even though I just said I don't like Harriers. I've got this one for its rocket pod, really. This was my last unit I picked on the deck, and I probably won't use it, but I might. And that's my aircraft.
That's a lot of aircraft. That's one thing people don't seem to know, is that you actually get more aircraft in the Marine deck as well.
Yeah. And I just wanted those Phantom 2s for air cover as well.
Yeah.
What have you got then, Silver?
I got the Phantom 2's napalm version. Like you said, I got the Prowlers, like you guys said, very good seed. I got the 18 C Hornet because that's very good for taking out tanks. And finally, it was kind of a toss-up. I was trying to decide between the AV-8C Harrier and the A64 Intruder. But I went with the Harrier instead. The reason why is that I've had bad experience with the 227 kilogram bombs. They just don't seem to really kill anything in my every time I've seen them used, unless you have them in like 30 munition clusters that the Soviets sometimes had. So I went with the AV-8C Harrier, and the reason why is that 38 rockets is still a lot of rockets. They can kill APCs, they can kill infantry, and they've got the infrared missiles on them. And one thing I like about rocket planes is that they reload so fast. You can bring them out like just 10 seconds later and do another rocket barrage. So
yeah.
So I got those so that they could just keep pestering the enemy if they are light on the AA. I'm just going to punish them heavily for not having AA up, or at least annoy them heavily.
Okay, cool. Right, let's move on to what the Marine deck's all about. No, not really. I don't mean it, but it's about the Navy, isn't it? Who wants? Does anyone want to go? Shall I go first?
You start, Bubble.
Okay.
We always start. You start.
I'll go first on the Navy. I like the Navy. I quite enjoy it, I have to say, although not many people seem to. The first thing I went for straight away is the 2 interceptors, the Tomcats, because as I say, if you're bringing out ships, you've got to have air superiority at least over your fleet, or else they're just going to get taken out by a good enemy that swarms you with anti-ship warfare. missiles. So I've got the 2 Tomcats. Next, I've got the Congo. Got to get the Congo, haven't you? Because it looks fantastic, basically. It's got some decent weapons as well, the harpoons. But basically, with the Blue 4 ships, you're much better off trying to get up close, kind of maneuver around the islands and try to engage Red 4 close up with your fleet. If it comes to fleet on fleet battles, try not to trade too much at range with Red 4 ships if you are the Blue 4 ships, because the Blue 4 tend to have the advantage when it comes to using the bow guns or the artillery guns. It's also got really nice anti-air on it against airplanes and helicopters, and very good CIWS. Then I've got 3 Lafayettes. The Lafayette's very stealthy. You'll find these won't be spotted very easily unless the enemy have quite decent recon around, and you can get quite close to the enemy before you're actually spotted with these things. The way they fire is really impressive in that they turn side on and will fire a salvo of 4 missiles at a time. So if you get 3 Lafayettes out and you turn off all your missiles, get them side on, and then open up, you will fire 12 missiles in one salvo. Now the range on them is a bit less, which is why I say you have to get closer with the Blue 4 ships, but they're really effective in that respect, and they have good or kind of medium CIWS, but they do run out of their Crotals really fast, and you need resupply with these, because once their Crotals are run out, their CIWS is much less effective, and they just get taken out.
They don't have any of those actual minigun or phalanx systems to shoot down missiles.
Yeah, I've got 3 Oliver Hazards as well. I tossed up between getting these and getting another set of Lafayettes, but these have got a decent artillery gun on as well, and once you get these up close, they've got their harpoons as well, 16 of them, which is the bonus. You just get a lot more of them, but they do fire them, I think, singly, so they're not as effective as firing a big salvo with your Lafayettes. Then I've got 4 LCUs just to resupply. If your Congo gets down to a couple of health, just pull it out of the battle, because it's not worth trying to get it back up to health again, because it will take about 4 LCUs to do it, and it's just not worth it. So once your ships get really damaged, it really takes forever, and it's really not worth trying to repair them too much, but use the LCUs more for resupply and just topping up health if you've just got a couple or 1 health damage. Then I've got some STRBs. I really like these. Hellfire missiles, 8 Hellfire missiles coming in from the beach, can take out anything on the beach, anti-air, kind of, tanks and vehicles. If you get close enough and you've got a bit of recon with you, then these things can take pretty much anything out. Their only weakness is against choppers with long range anti kind of tank missiles. Then I've got a set of US Marines in, yes, the LVTPs as well, in the little transport boats. And I've got a set of Super Pumas as well for long range sniping of the enemy fleet if they dare to bring one out. And that is my ships, etc.
Wow. Okay.
Vulcan, what do you reckon?
I have a Congo. Just a couple of things, you've already pointed out that I just wanted to expand on. The Congo also has the same firing system as the Lafayette, so it fires the 4 salvo as well, and I really like that about the Blue 4 Navy. So in my deck I've got the Congo and I've got 2 cards of the Lafayettes, because I really enjoy that salvo gameplay, bringing out multiple Lafayettes and then swarming the defenses of an enemy fleet, and you're normally going to kill a ship with each salvo, because the missiles are actually pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Then I have I have the LCU, of course. I've got actually 2 cards of Ciws, and these are both elite as well, so you can choose from rookie all the way to elite with these cards, but I've got 2 cards of them and they are both elite. So I got 12 elite Ciws, and with them being elite, their CIWS is incredible, and basically if you have enough of them out, fleet-on-fleet combat for you is going to be incredibly easy, because not only do you have like the better cannons on the Lafayettes and the Congo, you can engage at longer distance, knowing that you'll be safe behind like a Chancery wall, which will just kill any missiles that are coming towards you. Also, these help greatly against air attacks as well, and they are very likely to shoot down an airplane after you've shot the missiles out the air.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but you do have, or what I will say is you have to bring a lot of them out. You have got 2 stacks, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do have to bring a lot of them out because they kind of have to cover each other as well. Because I have used these to try and make a shield against my other ships and stuff while you're moving forward, and I do find they get taken out quite a lot. So I just think you just need a lot of them.
Yeah,
basically.
they can
And
get
as you
picked
say,
off.
you've got yours.
They can get picked off pretty easy by other ships, like you say. But generally, the best way to use them is not necessarily as a screen in front, but as a screen behind. Just
Right.
make sure that you pick off those missiles that threaten your navy.
Sure.
Those are
Okay.
very, very short range CIWS, though.
Yeah, but when they're elite, they are incredibly accurate.
Okay.
Cool.
Then I've got a card of the Tomcats. I actually had to quickly swap it out because I made an adjustment earlier where I originally had more of the really good chaparrals. But
Yeah.
I meant to have the Tomcats in the deck, of course, because they just are an amazing interceptor with the only Blue 4 aircraft to have the 11,900 meter range on their radar missiles. So that's just brilliant. Unfortunately, only 40% accurate. Kind of sucks. But then you can't really expect. Yeah, you can't really expect them to be too overpowered, because otherwise you're just getting like extra airplanes for free. Then finally, I have a card of Lynx HAS2s. These have 60% accuracy on their radar missiles against ships, and the reason I have the Lynx is because you get a lot of them, and they are very good at spamming enemy ship defenses and overwhelming them with a large amount of missiles if you use them all at the same time.
Yep, true. Because the only thing they are good because they've got twice as many missiles as the Super Pumas. The only thing I don't like is I know it's only a little bit of extra range. What's it? 2, 3, 4, 5. About 700 more, is it? Something like that. 700 meters more range on the Pumas. But I find that makes a big difference, especially if they turn their ships and come towards you and stuff. But yeah, you get more. Basically, trading off more missiles
can be an
for a bit less range.
But yeah, it's more like you would use them with your fleet. So you'd use them at the same time you'd use your Lafayettes. And if a fleet is focused on shooting down the missiles, I think some ships on Red Fort don't actually use their AA capabilities because they use the same missiles to shoot down missiles.
They do, yeah. Depends on the ship, but yeah, they do.
That they do to use on enemy aircraft and helicopters. So that's a weakness you can exploit from the Blue 4 side.
Silver, what have you got?
Is it my turn now?
It is.
Well, yeah, first I got the F-14 Tomcats. You have to because you're kind of short on the air superiority fighters, so you kind of need to get this interceptor to help defend. And as for my deck, one thing that I would like to note is that the Blue 4 tend to have better anti-ship planes than the Red 4 does. And since we're going to be playing these decks with the other decks, I assume you guys are going to have planes and just to supplement your Navy section as well. So I actually have less ships and more of like a landing party to try to flank or to bring in reinforcements to push on the enemy side. So it's a different kind of Marine than what you guys chose. But first off, I got the LCUs for supplies. These can supply both ground and sea. And I actually did not get the Congo. And the reason being is I'd like to have more ships, more versatility. And the Congo is one ship. Everyone kind of like focuses the Congo. And so you have to micro that more. Whereas if you, so I got the cheaper stuff, starting with the Oliver Hazard Perry. If you bring these out, 3 of these out, they're 3 harpoon missiles, very long range, can really pester the enemy and sometimes overwhelm the CIWS. I also got the Lafayettes for all your reasons. They're stealthy. They can fire force salvo. These are just kind of good for doing the push, assuming I have air support to take out any sovereign minis or utilize the enemy might bring out. And afterwards, I also got the STRB 90s. Like Bubble said, these are very good Hellfire missiles, frag grenades. And one thing that you said, where you said you need Recon to get the spot the Hellfire missiles, these STRBs actually have exceptional optics. It's actually a Recon ship, riverboat, that you can move up with exceptional optics. So
Yeah, I don't believe that's true though. You try it
No.
in game.
I did. I had a Red Force sniper squad on the tree forest, and STRB sailed right by it at a pretty good distance, and it spotted them and just opened up with his Browning machine gun frag grenade and killed my poor little sniper squad. And then after that, for my landing party, I've got M60 A1 eras because need a little bit of attack oomph with landing. For AA, I have all those stingers, so I thought I was covered in the AA department by landing stingers with my landing department. For extra recon, I got some more LAV 25 scouts with their good optics to be able to help spot for the eras a little bit better.
Yep.
And finally, I've got the last thing. I got the M728 CEV, and the reason why is because I just really love these things with their 8 HE power. I can actually just bring these in on my side and then supplement it with my infantry for river crossing. Because you don't normally get these in the vehicle tab in a Marine deck, so I just kind of skirted around the Marine restriction with these.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my Navy.
Cool.
I'm actually quite concerned.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing this Marine deck and we're all playing with our decks, we're going to have a very limited Navy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because we are going to be playing on water maps with these.
We're just going to assume the enemy doesn't have any sea and hope for the best.
Yeah, you are responsible anyway if it happens. Okay, I've got a couple more tips for people if they're watching and want to use Marine decks. And one is, you can see I've bought some US Marine 90s in the LVTPs. And of course, these come in little ships, little landing craft. And people sometimes kind of forget that once you've used your landing craft, you can send your landing craft back and you can pick up anything in your landing craft. You can pick up any tanks, any land units, artillery, anti-air, whatever you want. Doesn't have to be part of the Marine part of the deck, but anything will go in a landing craft and you can take that to an island or to anywhere on the map in those landing craft. And I think that's something people kind of neglect sometimes, because you only need one little unit that's got landing craft and you can just keep using those landing craft all the game. The other thing is, I've got two more tips for people. One is have air superiority at least over your fleet. If you ain't got air superiority, your ships are just going to die. And the last thing is, bring your stuff out in a fleet. If you bring them out singly, they're just going to die. See it so often. So they're my 3 tips for using the Navy, really. Anyone else got anything to say?
Not really. I've managed to bring out a Lafayette before and like sort of harass people before like the enemy sort of invested fully into naval and like done it that way. But yeah, if you're gonna bring up a couple units, don't just bring a couple. Like save a good amount of points. Bring like at least 3 or 4 and make sure they're well defended.
Yeah, exactly.
Only tip I have to say about naval is that if you look at it, if they have very little naval, then you'll know that the enemy will be strong landside. If they have a ton of navy, then you know that they're going to be weak landside if you guys are at equal footing, depending upon the map, the same amount of points. So you need to be able to respond appropriately, knowing where the enemy invested their points, so to take your advantage that way.
Yeah, okay. It's favorite unit time. Shall I go first?
Yeah, you can do.
I am going to go for, and I'm going to pick one from the ships tab. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I think you should, but you don't have to. I am going to go for the Super Pumas. And the reason is I've just had so much success with these choppers. As long as they're used, you don't even have to use them reasonably carefully, because they're really difficult to get rid of if you've got ships alongside you, because they just can't get shot down, because the ships will protect you from the aircraft. But they've got really nice range, and even if the enemy ends up with a big fleet, these things will harass that fleet the whole game and can keep that fleet away from your shores. If you've got a squadron of Super Pumas and a good resupply base really close by, so that they can go backwards and forwards really quickly. So I'm going to go for the Super Pumas.
Cool.
Vulcan.
For me, I think it's going to have to be the US Marine 90s. I think the US Marine 90s are like the staple of this deck with the LVTP 7A1s. Just a really, really strong unit. 15 strength, shock infantry, that really is the core whenever you're attacking anywhere with this deck. So that's going to be my favorite unit.
Cool. Silver.
My favorite's going to be the Super Cobras. Because, I mean, seriously, everyone will bring in the Super Cobras when it's not a Marine deck. When it is a Marine deck, everyone's guaranteed to have a Super Cobra. So it's a very good helicopter.
Yeah, I think we're basically sport for choice for good units.
Yeah,
deck,
longest range infrared AA on a helicopter in the game, I think.
Yeah.
So really, really nice.
Very, very good. I think just an honourable mention is the Tomcat. Like, again, it's the longest range aircraft you can get on the Blue Force side, and I think it's a very welcome addition when you're going to be using naval.
Absolutely. I thought about having this my favorite unit, but just the accuracy, I couldn't force myself. If it had 60% accuracy, this would be the boy. This would be the one. Yeah. But it just hasn't. But yeah, you're right. It's a really nice aircraft available in the Marine section.
And with Bubblebox finishing off, I'd like to thank him and SilverRaptor once again for letting me help them with their deck videos. If you'd like to see more like this, then please make sure you check out Bubblebox's channel in the description. He does a lot of videos that I don't, so make sure you go check him out. A video with this deck should be on the channel eventually, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.